Welcome into Still Potable, recording live in Dallas from the Grassy Knoll. We are here on the CLNS YouTube page, and we are brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time. Use the promo code CLNS to save money on both of those fine products. Download those apps and save money on tickets for Game Time and get some picks off with Prize Picks. We'll be back right after this with a full episode from Dealey Plaza.
Still potable in the playoffs. Still potable in the playoffs. Brian. Gotta get that ring in the playoffs. Still potable in the playoffs. Still potable. The Boston Celtics still potable. Banner 18. You gotta know. Let's go Celtics, let's go. Come on, the fucking Celtics, let's go.
I'm gonna do something stupid. Hello and welcome to Still Potable. We are here live in Dallas at Dealey Plaza, and we're here to talk about Boston Celtics basketball, folks. They are up 3-0 in the NBA Finals. We are on the off day between games 3 and 4. And B-Rob, we had the privilege of going to practice today at the NBA Finals, and what did we learn?
We learned Kristaps Porzingis is not done yet. He wants to get on the party, Packard.
Hanging out, shooting a lot of shots in the practice that's visible to the entire media. They had to know what was going on. The Celtics posted the clips of him shooting as well.
And doing a lot of shooting off of 1 foot, but seemed loose. And the team is actually having a shoot-around on Friday morning as well. So I don't know, Packard. This is not down the list of storylines in this series at this point with the Celtics up 3-0, but it is interesting to me that they're still working towards getting him back on the floor at this point where it's clear that they don't need him in this series anymore. But it'd obviously be a nice morale boost for him to get out there for 10 minutes and close the deal in front of his former team.
And it wouldn't hurt. Like, there's no reason to mess around. Win the championship. If you can use Kristaps Porzingis, it'll be incredibly helpful. And so it'll be interesting to see if he plays. Is there anything else we learned from the media today? I mean, listening to the Mavericks talk, they seem kind of resigned to their fate. They had a lot of responses about having to learn from this, about kind of getting better next year. Not a lot of hoorah, like, win one for the Gipper, we're going to get back into this series. Maybe that was just me reading into it, but it wasn't like the Mavericks, especially Kidd and Kyrie, seemed kind of resigned to what was going to happen to them.
Yeah, it's, I think, adjustment-wise, I'm not sure where you go to at this point. And Kyrie, he played his best in Game 3, pretty much as well as you're going to hope you're going to get from him in this series if you're Dallas. And it didn't matter. I guess the only thing that could happen now, Packard, and Luka, I guess, kind of spoke to this of being like, I have to be better. I have to be, more mature.
You think he's going to start defending?
Well, that's the thing. Is Jason Kidd and Brian Windhorst going to fire him up enough where he is going to be trying for more of the games here? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a development that we see in a Game 4 or if that's something that's going to happen next year or even ever for him. But that's, I guess, the storyline to watch here on Friday night.
I do apologize for the motorcycle sounds in the background. I have insisted that we record this at the Grassy Knoll, and that's going to come with some consequences, folks. And so if there's sacrificed audio, hand up, that is on me. We'll dive into all the brilliance that is the Texas Book Depository in the Grassy Knoll later. Another fun little thing today at Media Day is, like, a lot of the guys talk who don't normally talk. I got to be there for Xavier Tillman, and he was asked about his first conversation with Joe Mazzulla. And I feel like we've heard this before, but it just made me laugh today where Joe Mazzulla's message to Xavier Tillman. Joe Mazzulla, one of the weirdest guys I've ever really encountered, told Xavier Tillman, don't be weird. And I just thought that was fantastic advice from Joe Mazzulla, who I also learned today from Derek White, frequently walks around the practice facility and just with no socks and shoes on, always ready to get in a grapple. So that was some fun little nuggets from my Celtics Media Day.
Yeah, Derek also had a nice little gem. I think he was asked about one of his favorite moments with Joe Mazzulla over time, and he referenced how he congratulated Joe about his Coach of the Month award a couple months back, and Joe replied to him that no one cares, which I think is at least to know that Joe's the same way with the media as he is with his players in that front with that award. But yeah, there was a lot of clearly pretty positive vibes today, pretty loose vibes. And why not? This is a team. I think everyone top down, whether it's I think Tatum took a fun, playful shot at the media as well in his press conference in terms of when he was brought up how the Celtics are on a historic run right now if they pull it off in Game 4. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, but you guys will probably knock us about our path, and we'll have to do it again next year." So that's kind of just where they're at this point, but the killer instinct still appears to be there at this point.
So, based on vibes, based on what's happened in the first 3 games of the series, I'm going to ask you for a general prediction for tomorrow. How do the Celtics come out? Do they come out with that killer mentality? Joe Mazzulla would say they're that much closer to winning the championship, so they're also that much closer to losing the championship. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I could see the Celtics maybe taking their foot off the gas a little bit, as we saw in the fourth quarter of Game 3. I can also see the Mavericks, mainly Luka Doncic, who's clearly, I'm not making excuses, but I don't think he's in full health right now. And maybe he takes the path of just not giving up because you're down 3-0 and no one's ever come back. Kyrie Irving certainly capable of doing that. What are your thoughts about how both teams come out in Game 4?
Yeah, I think we're going to get one last push from the Mavericks early in the game, and I think a big part of Game 3 is the fact that the Celtics took that punch and then erased that big lead by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
And so the crowd will probably be into it, but at the same time, ticket prices have come down back. I wonder how many, if a bunch of Celtics fans try to nab a lot of those tickets, and then the atmosphere in the American Airlines Center is just not one that is still going to be, giving that Dallas any kind of a boost.
Yeah, but the in-game narrator will beg the fans to cheer. The rim mics will be loud and obnoxious. There will be a weird Mavericks horse leading a laser light show. I didn't mention this on last night's podcast.
Yeah, leftover junk.
But the guitar anthem was pretty fucking rad.
That was nice.
I did like that. They had nice red, white, and blue lights going on. And I believe the name of the guitarist was the Guitar Slayer, which I thought was pretty cool.
And he played the lineup intros too, right?
Yeah,
for the Mavericks?
He was on the guitar, standing on playing guitar stuff the entire time. I did think that was pretty cool, so shout out to him. About an hour ago, I asked you guys in the Still Potable chat for questions, comments. Oh, and I should mention we're here on CLNS, and this we're brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time. Use the promo code CLNS if you want to save some money from those fine partners. And we're here on the CLNS YouTube page. If you guys are watching for free on CLNS YouTube, go to patreon.com/stillpotable to get all of our content as we're covering the NBA Finals here in Dallas, here at Dealey Plaza, steps away from the Grassy Knoll. But we asked the fine folks, the people who are involved in the Patreons for questions just about an hour ago about the NBA Finals. We got 40 replies. Now, that might be an impressive amount, and I have to say, 20 of those replies come from legend Joshua B. So we got 21 replies, which I still think is impressive.
How many questions do we give Josh B? Do we have the filter for Josh here?
I'm going to try and do my best to filter them out. Some of them are just personal ad hominem attacks against perceived enemies. Me being one of them.
Those.
So we'll start with those. Dave Dufour, what are you doing? No.
Yeah, let's go. Let's maybe save. Let's go start with non-Josh B, and then
we'll get to the Joshua B section of the podcast.
Yeah.
Scrolling. This one's just from Joe. Don't you hate pants? In the Dallas Heat? Yes, I do. Thank you for the Simpsons reference. Do you remember that ESPN, this is from Ari, ESPN left Derek White off the top 100 players? Yeah, feels like an oversight.
Where does he fall next year in that list? I guess I'm more intrigued by that now after this season.
I think he top 70, top 60?
I would say definitely top 50.
Do you think they have 5 players in the top 50?
Yes.
I would. Where does Kristaps Porzingis fall?
I mean, I honestly, I don't. Maybe Porzingis is the guy that's not in the top. I would put White ahead of Porzingis in terms of just based on durability and defense at this point. The numbers obviously are what they are, but it's for Derek White to go into a contract year right now after coming off of this season. Like he is going to be earning himself a mighty fine payday, whether it's from the Celtics or someone else. But as far as his standing in the league, I think he's just like spring rocketed himself to a place where he's not just like a starter now. He's like one of the better role player starters in the league at this point.
And what a luxury to have him as a fourth or possibly fifth option for this team. It's pretty wild that I've just been thinking about like the team building. They were able to get him for Romeo Langford and a first round pick and a pick swap. That
top one protected. Don't
top
forget.
one protected. So
I couldn't give the unprotected one.
But that's just an absolutely wild underpay for Derek White, who's been instrumental in this team. Kudos to Brad Stevens, who I think Bob Myers, I heard today, suggested that he was the true MVP, Finals MVP, which is classic GM speak. That's absolutely ridiculous. Here's a good question from a few years ago. If you could draft a whole new NBA team, would you draft Giannis or Brad Stevens?
Whoa.
Didn't Chris Mannix?
That's right. That was one.
I would probably still go with Giannis.
Probably Giannis. But it's getting closer. It's getting close. Like Brad is making up some ground with this construction.
This question's from Joe. If Joe were to throw a new wrinkle in for Game 4, what do you think it might be? Zone. 24 minutes of zone to open the first half. I don't know. It feels like, why change anything that's working? They've just been able to stay in their base defense and guard Luka and Kyrie one-on-one for this entire series. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You got like them being pretty efficient, not really efficient, being decent volume scorers in Game 3, and the Celtics were still able to withstand that, and I just don't see the need for any sort of wrinkle. The wrinkle might be just bringing Kristaps back.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a pretty big deal because Tillman clearly gave you all you could hope for in Game 3 as from a defensive standpoint. So, trying out Porzingis, even if it is for 10, 15 minutes, like that could be a situation where they might have to pull the plug on it quickly if he just isn't able to move as well as you would hope. But beyond that, yeah, man, Packard, it's like this is as big of the story of the series is like Luka struggles and Kyrie struggles. Like the Mavs supporting cast has been absolute trash offensively in particular. And until they prove otherwise, and maybe they'll start hitting some shots, and then you have to adjust if you're Joe Mazzulla. But until that happens, you just play the cards that have gotten you here to this point.
Yeah, we saw a lot more Tim Hardaway Jr., a lot more JJ.
Why, by the way?
That's a very good question. They went away from Derek Jones. Like, Derek Jones Jr. hasn't been very effective, but what other options do they really have?
Give me Hardy over
Well, Hardy got some more minutes as well, and
he played like 4 minutes though. Like kid played 11 guys last night.
Yeah, maybe more Exum's the answer. I don't know. It does feel like Joe, and maybe this is a result instead of process-based analysis, and Joe would be furious with me for saying this, but it does feel like Joe is severely outcoaching not JJ. What the kid's name? Jason Kidd. J Kid.
JJ Kidd.
Speaking
you got the Lakers on your mind.
B. Chris asked, where does Joe Mazzulla now rank among coaches? And do you think it catches on that everyone's just going to be showing people getting choked out before to teach a message?
Yeah, I think this certainly safely puts him in the top 10 in the league. Maybe closer to top 5 than top 10 at this point.
Yeah, if you win a championship, I feel like you have to be.
You got Spo up there. You got like the Michael Malones of the world. Depending on what you think of Pop these days, whether there's a drop off or not with him, but tactically, there's been very few. I mean, clearly there's not many question marks when you go 16-2 during a finals run, but certainly there's been a lot he's done that's really helped this team, and for them to come through in those crunch time spots along the way here has been big. And tactically, what he's done with like the putting Drew in the dunker spot and things like that to really take advantage of what the Mavs have tried to do schematically of defense, I think he deserves some credit for that. Yeah,
and I think he's all the questions about like timeout and things like that, which I think were so overblown because people get so concerned about regular season games and like possibly not having it. The fact that the Celtics have won so many close games during this playoff run, I think shows the preparation they do in terms of like, we want you to be ready for absolutely anything. We want the unexpected to happen. And I think Mazzulla deserves a lot of credit because it feels like that's what he stresses of being like, anything can happen. You need to be ready for whatever this game throws at you. You give up a 22 run in the NBA Finals, make a play and figure out what's going to happen. And it feels like throughout this entire playoff run, when they have had these moments where they haven't performed up to their expectations, they've done a very good job of answering the bell, whether it was game 1 of the Pacers series, of figuring out just a way to win. And I think Mazzulla deserves a lot of credit just because that's what the whole process is like, you guys need to be ready for absolutely anything. We're going to lean into the uncomfortable, and there's been plenty of moments where the Celtics could have been uncomfortable, but they found ways to win. I'm going to give credit to Joe for that.
And how much do you think that is also personnel too, of like having the guys now of like, you know?
Oh yeah, the Celtics are extremely talented basketball team.
But even on talent, but like Smart in those moments, Brogdon in those moments. I feel like those are guys over time where it just wasn't. They wouldn't make questionable decisions or try to do a little bit too much out of their comfort zone. Where now everyone seems to just like know their role in the spot of being like, okay, I'm there for the kickouts. If you're Drew Holiday or Al or now Jalen, I think is just in his comfort zone of getting to the rim, looking for the kickout first over the finish. It is just like everyone has finally. It took a while for a lot of people on this team, but everyone seems to be there during this run.
We have a question from Ben F. Not including the town, which Boston-based movie do you think Mazzulla is most likely to force the Celtics to watch? My immediate answer is
Fever Pitch.
Well, it could be Fever Pitch. Although he doesn't strike me as a rom-com kind of guy. He's not really. My immediate answer was Boondock Saints.
Oh.
Because I don't really remember the plot to that. The Fighter, Sean suggests, is a good one.
Yeah.
I think he should just show them Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, okay. Where do you think he stands on Good Will Hunting? Do you think he's like
you
a fan
guys
of
are
it?
a bunch of geniuses who need to leave town to fulfill your destiny, and it's not your fault. But no, he does hold people accountable, so it is your fault. That's a good question.
Could see him going either way on that one.
Yeah. Another one from Ben. Is Luka Doncic fated to be this generation's James Harden? I think that's a little harsh. Obviously, Luka has not had the best series. But this is his first appearance in the finals. James Harden has been to 1 finals.
When he was a sixth man.
He's the 6th man. He was not the kind of leader of that team. He failed in the playoffs. I do think there's some similarities in terms of, especially with Luka scoring 8 points in the 3/4 quarter so far, in terms of like not coming up down the stretch. But I don't think this is the end of Luka. I think he's certainly more likely to come back. I think he's too talented of a player. Certainly, I think he needs to be in better shape. I don't know how much injury is going on right now. I also just don't think the Mavericks are a very talented team like surrounding him, and I think if Nico Harrison puts better players around him, I think Luka Doncic and the Mavericks will have a better chance of getting back to the finals and winning.
Yeah, you could honestly say that Luka's done more in the playoffs than Harden has, period, to this point of like Harden for every good game he's had in the playoffs, if he has had 2 or 3 duds in clutch spots, and Luka got a team here now that no one expected to get to the finals. But with that said, there are defensively the same questions are there, and I do wonder like what can they add to this Dallas team? Like Kyrie, I think is probably going to get worse as opposed to getting better at this stage of his career, and they spent all their picks to get rid of Grant Williams, get PJ Washington, and like Daniel Gafford. So like they're gonna have Derek Lively is gonna have to really develop well.
They have a lot relying on him getting a lot better.
Yeah,
and he hasn't really shown in this playoffs. But he is a rookie and he is 19 years old. So I think it's going to be interesting. But I don't think we can fully slander Luka as much as chat and the person who asked that question is wanting us to slander Luka at this point.
It's a fair question though. It's one to keep an eye on for the long term.
Okay, let's dive into the Joshua B questions. Who's the best player in the finals? I'm going to say Jalen. Who are 2nd through 10th best players in the finals? I'm going to say Jalen, Jason, Drew, Luka, Derek White, Al Horford, Xavier Tillman, Kyrie Irving, Sam Hauser, Kristaps Porzingis, and Daniel Gafford. The definitive list.
Nailed it.
Making fun of Luka from Josh B. Asking if Luka's going to play in Game 4.
Oh, did you see the Jeff Van Gundy news, by the way, today?
There's more. I saw Jeff Van Gundy at practice.
Yes, he was.
But I did not see any news about him.
So I believe Mark Stein reporting that the Clippers are looking to add him to Ty Lue's staff as a prominent top assistant. So
are we sure that wasn't just leaked by some sort of Jeff Van Gundy?
Well, that's the thing. Like,
what's his relationship with Mark Stein? Do we have a Dan Hurley-Woj situation going on right now? Is that a leverage play?
Is
he trying to get...
Given there was reports that he would be potentially be joining Joe Mazzulla's staff, there's certainly money to be discussed. And Steve Ballmer does have a lot of that cash.
It's a good team to pick in terms of trying to generate some leverage. The Lakers not as much of a good team because they are what you call a poverty franchise. And I take no joy in saying that.
But I wonder if Jeff will talk to us on the way out the door. He still has not talked to the media in Boston here since he's been hired. And if they do pull it off, I wonder if he will speak on the way out just to add some more clarity of his vision of how he thought things behind the scenes.
This one's from Josh B. Are Drew and Derek White the best defensive backcourt of all time or among the best? Who would you have above that? Now, I've done no planning and no research for this, and so I can't think of people who immediately come to mind as a better, more talented defensive backcourt, but I don't have the deep ball knowledge that I think you or Jake.
Yeah, I mean, in recent memory, like you got two all defensive guys in the backcourt. There's just how many teams have had that period.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I'd imagine next to none. Like,
I'm just trying to think of, like, over the last 20 years, who was like considered the best defensive guard. Like Gary Payton, but I don't remember any shooting guards that Gary Payton played with that is like was known.
Hershey, like Payton and Hershey. I don't think Hershey Hawkins was much of a defender. I guess like Drexler and Porter with the Blazers. I think in the early 90s, that's a pretty good defensive backcourt.
Do you count Scotty and Michael as like a backcourt?
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, right.
Harper and Michael Jordan, I think, is obviously up there.
Yep.
But I certainly think that Drew and Derek, such a luxury, man. They just do everything. And the fact that they've just connected on the offensive end so many times for clutch baskets, maybe Brad Stevens is the Finals MVP, out of the more that I talk about it. Talking about the national media, not giving credit to the Celtics. It is kind of crazy. I think Jay and I were talking about this when we walked over to the arena today. And I think I saw 89% of the bets were on the Mavericks this series.
Wow.
Like, it's just, I understand it somewhat in that, like, Jimmy Butler was hurt. Donovan Mitchell was hurt. Tyrese Halliburton left. But it was just, like, such a rush to discredit the Celtics and anoint some team from the Western Conference, whether it was the Nuggets, then the Timberwolves, then the Mavericks. We're watching a historically great basketball team that potentially could go 80-20 as the best net rating ever. It's kind of shocking how, and I just don't know why people wanted to search for a reason not to believe in them. But it feels like that's been the kind of general approach of the national media the entire kind of heading into these finals.
Yeah, I think it's just easier. They want stuff to debate. And it's tough to debate. I guess you could debate, like, where they should stand greatness, but that's a debate for, like, after they win. And it's easier, I think, now to just try to knock them down a few pegs and really question, like, okay, what have they really done here? But now, when they're on the verge of having the fourth best playoff record in NBA history, then those conversations seem foolish because this is a team that matches up with, like, they've done this all regular season. This isn't like a coming out of nowhere, everything came together situation. This was like, nope, this is what the metrics said they would be in the regular season, and now they're living up to it in the postseason.
I'm going to read this one from Josh Weave because it's flattering to me. As a new lawyer and one of the preeminent voices of Celtics Nation, JM, do you ever aspire to be a judge so you can condemn the national media's coverage of the Celtics while simultaneously condemning a criminal offender to a sentence? No. It doesn't seem like a fun position. More for the latter part. I can condemn the national media from my position as professional sports fan right now. I don't need to put on a judicial robe. But that was a fun one. Would you ever want to be a judge, B-Rob?
No.
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 It's a real burden.
Seems like a lot.
My dad was a judge for a while. He did not like it. He just had to deal with, like, people shoplifting like steaks from a supermarket. That doesn't seem like a good time.
A lot on
That
your
story
conscience.
is about the one time I watched my dad. So that's entirely what he did. Ari asks, as a podcast community, can we raise money to buy the Bucks front office plastic rings for gifting us Drew? It's a nice idea, Ari, but how much money do you need to raise to buy like 4 or 5 people plastic rings? I think you could probably donate that yourself, but do you think they feel stupid for gifting the Celtics Drew Holiday?
Yes.
I agree.
I think
there's no way they do not.
And I don't know if you're the Bucks now. I don't know how you take down. Like, you don't have anything else way to add to your team now. You're relying on Lillard and Bill, like all those guys, just not to age to the point where the fall off is too much to match with this group. I don't know. I guess we never saw these teams go head to head at full strength, but at the same time, like, when is that going to happen now for the Bucks, given what the track record of those injuries now
and
are?
The regular season matters. Like, it's always been in the NBA, like, and that's why I love basketball, is like, it is the best meritocracy of all the sports. If you're dominant in the regular season, generally that results in you being dominant in the playoffs. Building up championship habits, being prepared for all of these moments, like, there's a reason why repeated success is rewarded in basketball. That's the design of the sport, and the Bucks all season, despite starting 33-3 or have whatever the record was when they fired Griffin. It wasn't 33-3. That would be an amazing start.
It was good.
It was good, but they never had a good defense this year, and I think it certainly would have been a more challenging opponent. But I think the Celtics, there's no reason to doubt them at this point, just because of their continued dominance for the entire year.
Yeah, it's Milwaukee's there. Philly obviously thinks they can go get someone, but even that situation with Embiid now, it's like, all right, well, we know how that's gone the last few years, and Embiid's entering the wrong side of 30, and then the rest, the up-and-coming, the feisty Pacers, it's like all these teams are like, yeah, they give it on a shot, but it's hard to see any team beating this core group in a 7-game series anytime soon.
All right, we've gotten to the junk portion of the questions. People just demanding we get Blake Griffin on the pod? Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'll give him a call.
Yeah, if we could get Blake Griffin on the pod, he'd be on the pod, folks. Ben asks, what's the more sound strategy for winning Monopoly? Buy as many properties as humanly possible, dominate the trade market, or bankrupt your opponents? I don't see why you have to pick. I was always a big fan of Baltic and Mediterranean, just because I felt like I liked having a little. The purple, yeah, the first ones. You build up some hotels on there. It's a nice little money generator. But I think Monopoly's a bad game. I've played way better board games. Monopoly takes forever. It's not good. But
give me Catan.
Yeah, Catan's better. I've played some way nerdier games. And so branch out, folks. You don't have to play Monopoly anymore. T-Money, the famous T-Money, asks, what is fun to do in Dallas? You're looking at it, folks. Dallas is a weird city. There's nothing really going on in the downtown. It's very spread out.
It's very hot.
Very hot. I don't know. I've only been here for like less than 24 hours, so.
Barbecue. Barbecue spots.
Yeah. I do hate pants. And Jeff asked, is Luka responsible for JFK? Did you guys investigate? That's why we're here, Jeff. November 23rd, 1963. Presidential motorcade starts down on Elm Street, right about here. Well, it didn't start there. It started at the airport. JFK is doing his Texas tour, trying to, reassure things up before the 1964 election. Who's in the 6th floor of the Texas Book Depository up there? But Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, he brought in a large, what looked to be a gun. We don't know if it was a gun. There's still questions there. But it's a large newspaper covering. And so the motorcade turns on to here. I forget the name of this road. I think it's still Elm Street. Shots ring out. Boom, right there. X. Albert Zapruder is standing on the grassy knoll right behind us, filming this on his 8mm camera. 26 seconds of footage. The only person to get the entire document on film. And now, B-Rob, you're not, and Sean, I'm clearly way much more of a JFK conspiracy nerd. As soon as I got to Dallas, it's like, we got to go to Dealey Plaza. And everyone else is like, yeah, no, I just think it's kind of a road. This is where it all went down, folks. My first reaction into being in Dealey Plaza is that from the book depository to here, kind of an easy shot. I was made to believe that there's no way the man could pull it off. I think it's possible. But we're not going to be able to get this in camera. There is an industrial train line right there that is in clear distance of where the second shot's rang out, about 20 feet that way. And that is where the fatal shot was shot by some member of the CIA. My theory is that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy, and that the CIA, the anti-Castro Cubans, and the mafia conspired together to take out Kennedy, and they put Lee Harvey Oswald in kind of a sleeper agent. Now I'm rambling. Now I'm getting a little bit excited. But why was Lee Harvey Oswald allowed to defect to Russia and then give up his American citizenship, right? This is the middle of the Cold War. The Bay of Pigs just happened. We just had 10 days in October in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and we're just letting a Russian sympathizer come back, and the CIA and everyone just lets him come back and then starts giving him jobs and has all sorts of contacts with him here in Dallas. Doesn't make any goddamn sense, B-Rob.
You might have to start a podcast about this.
Oh, if only there was a podcast about the JFK assassination. I do think we are the first podcast to be recorded at Dealey Plaza about the Boston Celtics. I do think we're pioneers in that regard. I
enjoy seeing how geeked up you are about this, though. This is
I didn't
this
realize
is like a little
how
bit
much
of
of
like
a
a Super
giant
Bowl for
fucking
you.
nerd I was about this. I feel bad because I'm not getting all the facts correct, and so, but yeah, here we are, Grassy Knoll. I think it's kind of unlikely that because one of the main theories is that the second shooter was hanging out here on the Grassy Knoll. That just doesn't make any sense. People would have seen a man with a gun, but it's that train tracks over there overlooking. It's where the second shot was fired over here. Tougher shot from the Texas Book Depository, much easier shot from there, and it fits much more in line with the magic bullet theory. Now, I was explaining to my friends here the magic bullet theory. You guys don't know. Second shot goes through the back of JFK's neck, comes out of his chest, hits Governor Connolly in the wrist, and then ricochets around. It makes no goddamn sense and doesn't follow physics. I think like a couple of months ago, they actually found another bullet that they had not included in the Warren Commission's investigation, which basically confirms there were more shots than in the actual investigation. There had to have been a second shooter, folks. And my guess is he was right on that goddamn fucking bridge right there. And the whole world changed because of it, folks. And that's why we're here. It's still potable, maybe a Boston Celtics podcast, but we're about history. And we're about basically just allowing me to do my nerdy ideas. I think that's mostly what we're about. And so I thank you guys for indulging me.
And we could be seeing more history tomorrow night.
Yeah, we could.
In Dallas.
Revenge, some would say, for Dallas, the city of Dallas, taking one of New England's finest sons in JFK. The Celtics came back and got revenge. Shout out to Sam Sheehan for pioneering that take.
You got anything else for us?
That's all I got. I would say do your own research, folks. But the Warren Commission has been lying to us for years. There's still files they won't release to the public. Actually, if you do want to listen to it, Rob Reiner, for some reason, like director of When Harry Met Sally, and Soledad O'Brien recently had I think it was like a 12-part podcast explaining everything. They do a pretty good job, folks.
There you go.
Yeah. I never thought I would say the phrase, reporting live from Dealey Plaza. I'm Jan Packard. But for Brian B. Robb of MassLive.com, for me, for Sean behind the camera, for Jay King, who refused to come and experience any sort of cultural affairs. He's actually doing work and writing a story. But thank you guys for listening. We'll be back tomorrow for whatever happens after Game 4. And that's been Still Potable.
Still potable, still potable. The Boston Celtics still potable, still potable.
Oh, yeah.
Go down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.